Good morning, I'm Cassidy Williams. Eric Parker has the morning off. We begin our program looking at the tragic death of a local veteran volunteer firefighter. Funeral services were held yesterday for Plainville's Ray Moreau, who died 1 week ago today after responding to a fire on Maria Drive. Paul Januszewski is chief of the North Haven Fire Department and a practitioner in residence at the University of New Haven, where he works with students in the School of Health Sciences. Paul, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And just talk a little bit about, I know you didn't know Ray personally, but how a loss like this just impacts the entire firefighting community.
Of course. You know, when these types of tragic incidents happen, our students begin to question what they're really doing and begin to question what they can do for a different outcome. And so we really make sure that we take care of them during this time of need with seasoned instructors that have been through something similar in the past that can kind of talk to them on a personal level and find out what they need to kind of move forward and figure out what to do from here.
Yeah, because you're at the University of New Haven, you're training the next generation of firefighters. Do losses like this make them second guess taking on this kind of danger?
I'm fortunate to have a small part in training the next generation of firefighters and paramedics. And oftentimes it's the students and the parents that are beginning to question what exactly is going to happen and how the field and the service industry has changed specific to emergency services. And so, yeah, we're aware of it. You know, we embrace the science. We look at what we call line of duty death reports, and we try to determine what we can do to change the training to make it better in the future.
Yeah, what would you want to tell a student or a parent who's maybe nervous about their son or daughter entering this field, because we know volunteer firefighters are so needed? They
really are, and they're down all across the state and the nation. You know, what we try to do is immerse them into experiences and environments where it becomes muscle memory. Unfortunately, some of these scenarios that we put either our paramedics or our firefighters in, it's really hard to recreate in a training scenario, but we've invested a lot into some of our labs and some of our training experiences that we can put students in so that they're seeing firsthand what firefighters and EMS providers go through every day.
And not just with the students, you're also a fire chief. How is this impacting the fire departments across the state, the people already in the field?
Well, you're going to see, as you saw yesterday, an outpouring of support for the loss of the firefighter in Plainville. We all feel a sense of having to be there, having to at least take part and feel like it's part of the closure process for all of us, whether we knew the firefighter or not. Every time this unfortunate scenario happens, you see an outpouring really all across the country.
Because when you hear about something like this happening, even if you don't know them, just knowing that you've been probably in similar situations where this happened, how does that impact the next time you go out on a call?
It impacts the firefighters tremendously. Unfortunately, North Haven has seen 2 line of duty deaths in the last couple of years, and I can tell you that the firefighters, they're still recovering each and every day. And so one of the ways that we try to help them to move forward is obviously through some counseling support that we can offer them, but also through training and through becoming, believe it or not, involved in what happened yesterday with the funeral, offering them the opportunity to go and feel like they're at least giving back to the community in a way that they haven't been able to in the past.
And what kind of support services are offered to fire departments when something like this happens?
Sure. So there's a lot of what we call peer support groups. So we transitioned away from the traditional go see a therapist type environment. Those are still available to us. But what we started to do is train firefighters that have an interest in being there for others and train them to go and learn how to talk with their coworkers and to kind of pull out those feelings so that we can be there. Now you're talking to a peer who understands and maybe has been through something in the past. And that's also what transcends into helping students at the University of New Haven, is because those same people become adjunct professors for us.
Yeah, anything specifically with training that you plan to bring from this experience to your students?
Well, as with every occurrence like this, we're going to wait for the investigation to show exactly what happened. And we'll, of course, like any other time, start to make sure that we are training our students appropriately to keep something like this from happening again. And sometimes it's difficult to do. Sometimes it may include some audio and some video and so forth. But it's really important. I think that helps with that process of feeling like they're prepared for whatever comes next.
You know, we're still waiting for the investigation into what happened in Plainville. Are there any other recent examples that you can think of where something happened and you have changed the training?
Specific to firefighter deaths, one of the things that we actually are looking at right now are rehab So when a firefighter is done in that type of environment where they're stressed and they're heat exhausted, we're looking at ways to stress rehab in that environment more and more. And that comes into, again, with teaching paramedics how to be aware of what firefighters are going through. It's different than a regular call that he or she may go to in the community. Treating firefighters, knowing if they have any type of carbon monoxide in their system, respiratory concerns, heat exhaustion, those are important things for firefighters coming out of that environment that paramedics should be aware of. And we do that at University of New Haven.
Was there a specific incident that led to that part of the training?
Specific in Connecticut, not recently, but we look at these types of occurrences all throughout the country. And so there's reports that come out. Unfortunately, they're delayed. Maybe they're a year or two after the fact. But every month that they come out, we're looking at them. We're trying to figure out how we can take that and turn it into a learning experience for the students.
What type of people do you find are drawn to this type of work despite all of the dangers we've been talking about?
Sure. So there's really two types. There's career firefighters, and they're looking for things that are exciting. Every day the job is a little bit different. They're looking for the opportunity to work with peers, alongside peers. You never really working alone. And then the volunteer firefighters in the state, throughout the country, they're in it really for the pure altruism, and that is the ability to give back without expecting anything back in return. And our volunteers, unfortunately, in the state, they're really on the decline, but those who are still staying with it today, they're in it for all the right reasons.
What do you think the state, how do you think the state can do better about recruiting some of those volunteer firefighters? Because we've been hearing about the shortages.
You have. That's one of the focuses right now of the governor's office and of the Commissioner of Public Safety, Ronell Higgins. And I know that there's some committees being formed now that we're going to start trying to look at ways that we can increase the number of volunteer firefighters. And believe it or not, even career firefighters, the number of applicants are tremendously down compared to what it was only 10 years ago.
Like, how much are they down? Do you have any numbers on that? Or?
Sure. So in the last 10 years, the number of volunteer firefighters in the state has dropped by half.
Half. That's what impact does that have on the communities where they have to put fires out? Tremendous
impact. And you look at the firefighter in Plainville. He was in his 60s and still volunteering as a firefighter. And that's unbelievable. And unfortunately, what we're seeing is those who are still volunteering are becoming older and older. And so we're trying to do the best we can to get the younger generation to realize what a rewarding experience it is, whether it's career or volunteer. But to do that, we're going to have to really dig in and find out what they're looking for. And used to be things like pensions and things of that. They're not looking for that anymore. Now they're looking for something else, and we need to find out what that something else is.
Any last words on kind of what happened, or any message to those young people who maybe want to be a firefighter?
Of course. Obviously, our hearts and our prayers are with the Plainville Fire Department and the family of the fallen firefighter. The University of New Haven is doing the best it can to try to prepare paramedics and firefighters moving forward to keep the tragic events that happened last week from happening again. And we're going to do our best to make sure that we learn from this and any else that might come after this.
Great. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.